Greetings, Tauva. I hope you're all well. And obviously today we've had the balanced data slate and the points launched, and I'm going to get straight into it. I'm going to tell you kind of my feelings on the matter, and I'm going to vent. I know I'm quite a positive individual, but there's a couple of negatives that I'm a little bit frustrated about. But there's a lot of positives in there in terms of the way that the game is going to change drastically. So let's get the bad stuff out of the way first. So one of my worries was that as soon as the 3-inch deep strike is changed to the universal 6 inches, there's a lot of things that were pre-designed in the game to work alongside 3-inch deep strikes that would need to be changed. And Tau with Red Cadre had one, that is second part of our detachment ability for the extra AP within 6. It had Sunforge, that with their limited range of 12, allowed us to get the melter damage off. And then there's other armies, just to pick a few, like the GSC demo charges. Now, despite spotting that this could be a thing that they overlook, I remember it's a team, so it's not just one person running the balanced data set, it's a team of people and they have to work together. I thought that they would look at it of all instances of armies that have abilities that would usually be procced with the 3-inch and just alter everybody. I knew that the Tau might miss out on this, and it just so happens that they've not adjusted our ranges of the Sunforges or our extra AP, and that has kind of pissed me off. I'm not going to lie. And I was like, okay, cool. So you've taken away two things that are heavily part of this detachment and basically made it null. That I don't like. So then, getting that off my chest, I thought to myself, okay, cool. Have a bit of a rant. I got laughed at in the Team England chat. They were like, whap whap. Here's my tiny violin, I don't care. And then started to really look at some of my past games, especially over WCW and my games with the Red Cadre, and thought, okay, let's look at the melter damage. Did I actually need the +2? Most of the time when I submitted a Sunforge with a Cold Star with 4 fusions, so it's like 10 fusions coming at my opponent. Did I really need it? No. Okay, so, okay, cool. It will affect big things, like going into, say, big knights, or anything that's got more than the typical transport wound. And I thought, okay, that might matter, but genuinely when I've submitted my Sunforge towards things like Predators, Vindicators, so on and so forth, it's not really mattered. So I thought, I can get over that. The extra AP, on the other hand, with dropping in the Star Scythe bursts or the Flamer unit, that was something that I was doing quite a lot, and I was having huge success with it, especially with the Flamer unit. That now going away does hurt them. So I was like, that's a bit annoying. But my units that were on the board were always able to get within 6 inches anyway, because I was attaching my Cold Stars to things like the Burst Star Scythe unit. So I was like, alright, not a problem. And then I'd always start a Sunforge team on the board with a Cold Star, because they are my anti-tank threat, and with the Cold Star they can get into places really quickly. So they can get within 6 as well. So it was only really Farsighted's Sunforge team dropping in, but they're still going to get access to the +1 to wound, which is a positive. And then the Flamers and the other units, very rarely was I using the kind of 3-inch on them, but in certain matchups I was kind of relying on it. So what's the positive? Well, AOC changing for activation is huge, is 100% a massive change for the game. And for us, think outside the box. We don't just go one unit nukes one unit. We have the ability to do that with certain key units, but when we want to dumpster fire everything into one target, AOC is a bit of a pain. Take our breaches, take our star size that are maybe not within 6 and within just the normal range for the extra AP. You couldn't touch that unit. A 2-up armor save Terminator unit with AOC We ignore cover, and that is something that is unique to us. We can just ignore cover and just benefit from cover. So AOC now being for that one activation is huge. It means that our other units that are kind of dumpstering into this one target will actually fight to full effect. And if you happen to send out a burst Starsight unit within 6, their AP2 goes to AP1, and then everything else that shoots them gets their AP1. Really good for breaches, really good for Starsight bursts outside of the first activation. And also, there's a detachment that I have not run yet competitively in the tournament scene, and this is kind of pushing my hand, and I'm really excited to play around with Mont'ka, because we have got loads of ways of adding extra AP, combining like the star sights and now missile sides as well. So I think there's a lot of positives within the Mont'ka detachment. And just to let you know, speaking to a lot of other competitive players that have been hit with their chosen factions like Nassim and Guard is kind of like upset and a bit frustrated the fact that Leontis can't do orders now to Bulgrin. You've got other armies that are now thinking, okay, Bobby G and loads of tanks with double oath, Custodes looking at the Dreadnought spam kind of list as well. Okay, what does really good into like the Ironstorm type of Marines with double oath? Lethals. Okay, what does really good into Custodes Dreads? Lethals. So that's the positive that I'm taking away, that actually Mont'ka has loads of ways of adding extra AP, loads of ways of just dealing with tanks and Horde, and I'm quite excited to kind of play with the detachment, and it would be a really nice way to end the season to have played a competitive event with each detachment. So for me, as much as I started this call saying I'm a bit pissed off that they've just overlooked, and it is depressing when you see a balanced data slate and you go, oh, look at all these changes, these are looking really good. Oh my god, yeah, they're changing this, they're changing that, and then none. the non part is a real kick in the nads. But think about it on the flip side as well. We've always said that Tau's very balanced, so no changes means that we are actually balanced. And yeah, they crept in and was like, no changes, but that Tiger Shark is a little bit too brutal, so we'll just up it by 50 points. So the only change that we've had is going up by 50 points on the Tiger Shark. For those of you who love your Tiger Shark model, at least it didn't get legended. So there are a couple of silver linings within this. But I will not sit here and say that, oh, it's all roses, I'm really happy about it. Because for me, the thing that has really annoyed me is the fact that they've not put the same level of attention and detail into fixing things like they did with the demo charges in these example, and they didn't think, oh, let's go into Tau and go up the AP range, even if it was like 7 inches or 8 inches or just something small, or change that stratagem. That, for me, personally, and this is my own personal opinion, feels like negligence rather than care. And I'm not pinning it on a one person. I love all the changes that the GW team are doing, but if I'm honest, I even preemptively sent a message to say, watch out for this. But remember, if I was that person receiving that message, I only have a certain amount of influence. So I am not saying that it's one person's fault. I just think as a whole, they should have addressed these 2 points that we're all upset about with Red Cadre, because it is a detachment that we're having the most fun with at the moment, and it's given us a different way of playing the game outside of the traditional Kauyon and Mont'ka. So again, let's put that one to bed for me. I won't mention any more about it. And if you've got all the views yourself that you want to express, please come to the stage and talk to me. Because for me, I think this session is going to be really good if we just get out the things that we're annoyed about, but also look at the positives as well. So I don't want it to be all positive. I want there to be a bit of a balance here. So for me, just a quick thing before I pass it on to you guys is that I think all the changes across the board, Sisters being nerfed massively, okay, GSC getting the resurgence points or whatever they're called, is going to be a quality of life change. It's not going to put them in the bin, but it's going to give them at least something that they have to kind of think about, rather than just going, oh, I'll just roll. Other things to mention as well, the AOC change, like I said, is a huge thing. And the great thing about AOC change is that it's for stratagems only, not innate ability. So our Enforcer just gets AOC from ranged. So we just get the AOC automatically. And the downside to Enforcers is that they are slow. But in Mont'ka, you've got the assault ability and the flat advance as well. And then in Red Cadre, AOC being able just to be littered everywhere. And I think the things that we can be thinking about, just in your back of your head for Red Cadre, is that because the change to 3-inch deep strike is now 6, it's going to be a lot harder to place 3 crisis suits plus a commander in the positions that you want. So single commanders are harder to screen. And yes, okay, if you do a single enforcer because you want your cold stars to be attached to units, a single enforcer, yes, it doesn't bestow AOC, but it's still a 2-up save, potentially 8 wounds or 7 wounds with a shield drone and a marker drone. It can fit in small spaces, and with missiles, you can just go cyclic and 3 missiles. Yeah, you're not going to get your extra AP, but you're just going to be there, and with AOC being kind of diminished from a constant effect to 1 activation, you can honestly utilize single commanders more in Red Cadre. So it's not all doom and gloom. There just may be a bit of rework within our lists. But for me, I'm still positive about Red Cadre. I'm just probably going to explore both Red Cadre and Mont'ka and try and take the best of both. So anyway, I know I'm going to have a lot of chat to catch up on. So if anybody wants to come to the stage and start things off and ask me any questions, please, please, please do so. I can see one hand up already. So Lone Ranger, I'll bring you to the stage. I brought you to the stage, dude. I don't know if you need to accept it. Invite you to speak. How you doing, buddy? You good?
I'm doing all right. You're doing well?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Just basically up to here with content and stuff that I'm planning, but I'm feeling excited and ready for change. So how about you, man?
Yeah, no, I was gonna ask you about that. So I TO'd my first tournament this weekend, which, by the way, if any of you have the opportunity to TO, do it. You learn a lot about what everyone else is doing. Obviously, it's great to play, but for the Americans in the chat, if you've ever seen Red Zone for football, the sport where you throw a ball with your hands, it's like that. And basically getting to watch the Red Zone for 40K taught me a lot of things, but more specifically, I think Mont'ka, when we mentioned it, is interesting, because my cousin plays Necrons, and we were sitting there breaking down the numbers of how do you beat the Silent King bubble. You have the 3 Dooms, and especially with Shatterspear, you have the 3 Doomsday Arcs, you have the Silent King, and we don't have the Strength, because obviously they're not just going to, you could think, well, if you're in Kauyon, they stand on the point. They're not going to give that to you. They're not stupid. So I think the biggest thing is how do you beat the Necron Castle is what I'm worried about.
Mm-hmm.
How do you beat the there's just one guy in my local meta who plays just a bunch of Chaos Knights that I'm less worried about. But I really think that if you look on, I had it up stat check earlier, we'll see what happens to GSC, but I think the real force to beat is going to be how do you beat that Necron Castle? Because I was running the numbers last night, and it felt like no matter what, either the strength wasn't high enough or the volume wasn't high enough to the point where if they get a spicy roll, you just kind of blank.
Okay. So the Necron Castle is, and again, I'm looking at it in terms of lots. It's not just like one army that I'm looking for, because we can't just tech for like one army, as you know, because the spectrum of different types of army is going to be like massive. But if we specifically zone into Mont'ka, usually small arms fire bounces, right? If it's not the correct strength characteristic, and the correct breaking point that we want is strength 6. So breachers can both punch up to vehicles with the lethals, and if it happens to be an objective, which it wants to be to play the game, they're going to have loads of vehicles everywhere, like the Stalkers, the Doomsday Arcs, Silent King. He has like, -1 damage, I believe, with that, one of the things he can do. So cool, I don't care, I'm strength 6. I'm lethals, and if you're on an objective, which you're going to have to be to play the game, I'm rerolling wounds. And I'll chuck a fucking grenade at you, and I'll just go bop, 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 and shoot you with loads of shots. So I think the return of mass fire within Tau that's also at the correct breaking point is going to be crucial to dealing with vehicles and these tough, durable tanks. Every Necron player is going to be like, cool, I'm going to take all these vehicles, and I'm going to go through walls, and I've got this fallback and shoot with one unit, because it's not an aura. That's what the leaks were. They said it was going to be an aura, and that was bonkers, but it turns out it's just one unit. So you can utilize your infiltrating units to then kind of move into position and charge and tag multiple vehicles up. And then with a Silent King, you just wait for him to come out, and you can just go Cadre, Fireblade, Breaches, Grenade, loads of shots, and you can go in. Because your Mont'ka detachment is very much centered around going in early. And so's any other army that has advance and shoot and wants to get places. So they're going to come to us now because they want to, but we also want to go to them. So the detachments that we've been running before, aka Kauyon and Red Cadre, Red Cadre allows you to take your foot off the pedal, be a bit observant of what's going on, and then just descend with everything. Kauyon patiently playing the game, screening, so on and so forth, and then hitting them from turn 3 onwards. Mont'ka is just like, well, if these detachments are getting more aggressive, so take the Death Guard one with the scout move, the Necron one as an example, they're coming to us and it's telegraphed, so we can now go to them. So the reason why Mont'ka's not been working is simply because people are playing the late game, right? But a lot of these detachments are forcing the aggression, so we can force the aggression back with Mont'ka. So that's why I'm a bit excited. But in terms of dealing with those vehicles, missiles, damage 2s, yes, they could do -1 damage, but I'm just doing sheer weight of shots with lethals and just giving you so many saves. It's not reinventing the wheel, it's very much kind of like throw enough dice at something and it's going to die eventually. And with Tau, we can definitely bring the bucket load of dice. And I think that's the change that we're going to see within our Tau builds, just to really push the weight of fire, plus loads of bodies, plus loads of decent anti-tank as well. So I don't think I'm worried about the Necron detachment. When you're crunching the numbers, I haven't crunched the numbers, but I still pretty much know that a Cadre, Fireblade and Breacher team with lethals, and potentially if you want to spike by guiding with a Fire Knife team with an Enforcer with the coordinated to in whatever it's called, the exploitation for sustained and lethals, yes please, plus a grenade, let's go. So I don't know if you've looked into that and what numbers you crunched, but that's still going to put a dent into something.
I see. I think that's a really good point. The reason why I was mentioning Necrons more specifically is like, now that I didn't think of the Breacher thing initially, and the missiles too is a really good idea. Because I'm looking at basically the US, I'm looking just at the player populations. So Guard I'm not particularly worried about because we have Hammerheads and we have the ability to deal with their infantry pretty effectively.
Yeah.
Tyranids, I don't know, I feel like I'm not necessarily, like, because of the whole battle shock thing, it's like I prefer not to think about Tyranids if at all possible. I feel like it's not worth trying to super tech into an army that we're just kind of, I feel like, has our number. And the rest of it is Space Marines and variants, which we do fantastic into,
yes,
generally, I feel like. So I feel like the Necrons, the reason why I mentioned Necrons specifically, because I feel like it's the one thing in the meta, or that's going to definitely be the top of the meta, that we don't have a really great answer for. But if you do have I wish I could talk more about Tyranid just because I don't know what the build is.
So one thing I've noticed, and I'm going to start, and obviously remember guys that, you know, as much as I hate to say it, but I don't mean this in an arrogant way, as much as I'm meant to be all-knowing, I'm still only human, and there's a lot of goddamn change that's happened right on the front doorstep today. And what I'm doing is, when I'm doing these Grotmas calendar reviews and working with Black Goodbye with the faction focus stuff we're doing, I'm going to be learning the types of archetypes, and I've got exposure to the top players out there in the world that within our Team England Discord and other Discords. So I'm going to be learning as I'm going along, and I'm going to be seeing people come up with new archetypes within a slate change and how they're transforming the lists, which for Tau, as I've always said, we're very good at reacting to the meta. So I think when people have let the dust settle a bit and start to come up with some creative stuff, we're going to be able to adapt our list towards this new meta that's going to be presented to us. But initially, it's like a merry-go-round. It's going to go round and round and round. And I'm like, well, we've taken a foot off the gas with mass bodies, breachers, cadres for various reasons, but now they're back in play. And with Mont'ka, honestly, I think we have a style of play here, and we have an avenue just to go, oh, everybody's starting to copy, you know, the Necron monster, it's not the monster mash, the vehicle build. Oh, Marines are going to go Bobby G with double oath. Cool, that's going to bring back an Iron Storm. So straight away, that's 2 armies that I've just briefly seen in the chats that are, and Custodes is a third one, with the Dreads. Okay, that's 3 armies there that are going to go vehicle heavy. Well, Mont'ka, tick. So you can almost do a list and kind of put Horde or Tank and then tally it down and go, oh, well, if it ends up being 10 tanks and 5 Hordes, then Mont'ka's perfect. So I'm utilising the information that I'm getting around me to inform my decision on what detachment's going to be the strongest. Also, with the Grotmas calendar reviews, I'm looking at how these archetypes are being built, and you mentioned Tyranids and you prefer not to think about them, but with the bio form with the warrior build, they're doing loads of warriors plus loads of Hormagaunts to basically really synergize between the endless multitude units that can give a -1 to wound. Obviously, it doesn't take a genius to work out you shoot the small stuff first and then they can't bestow a -1 to wound on them. But if they're going to go mass bodies and mass horde plus warriors, Red Cadre is still extremely good into them, and Mont'ka, with just the sheer amounts of shots and lethals and Cadre Fireblades and breachers, is going to be damaging to him anyway. So I'm not really seeing, at the moment, a downside to taking Mont'ka or a downside to our traditional Red Cad lists. Kauyon is one of those ones where, unfortunately, if the meta is going to be super aggressive, then Kaion's almost going to be like really squeezed in terms of, you know, if you thought screening was hard enough or hard to get tempo back in the game, then we're still in that spot of being able like, oh my god, we're in a corner. Whereas aggression meets aggression is definitely something that I'm going to be looking at doing, and I think still Red Cad can do it, and I still think Mont'ka is now time to shine. So I'm kind of excited just to get testing and to see how everything evolves over the next couple upcoming weeks.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I don't want to take up all the time. That's all I really had.
No, that's good, man. Honestly, I want more people to come to stage and chat to me because the more the merrier, and the more information we get out of this session, the better for us all. So thank you very much for taking the time to come to stage, man. Much appreciated.
Of course, yeah. Anyone else want to tag in for me? Or?
I will remove you from the stage, and then I'll let other people request to come and speak. Okay, I'm just going to, in the meantime, while people are thinking, I'm just going to catch up on like 75 messages since 1 minute past 7. Crew Gamefly. I wish. I'm really hoping our new detachment is good because I am really feeling how few detachments we have. Okay? Yeah. I just hope it's not an ethereal one. Or if they do make an ethereal one, please, for the love of God, make it super busted. Minute of silence for Rhett and Tiger? And Tiger Shark. Okay. No, I'm still strong with the Red Cad, you know? I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. Even though I'm pissed off about the 6-inch thing and the melter, I still think it's strong. Because the points didn't change. We all agreed that Star Scythe were just super busted at 110, and our enforcers and our commanders were too cheap. So I think the one learning that I talked about with my WCW with Red Cad is I wasn't being aggressive enough. I wasn't using my crisis suits as trading pieces. They're not trading pieces. They're hammers that can also trade because you've got multiple units of them. That still remains the same. So yeah, people can screen out better, but so what? I'll just utilise Rapid Ingress more, and I'll have more suits on the board, and I'll happen to have them attached with Cold Stars. Yeah, Tiger Shark, fair, but having a Tiger Shark that's two Iron Hammerheads plus more for cheaper than 2 Hammerheads seemed a bit ridiculous. I don't want to be sent back to the Kauyon mines. Yeah, fair. Won't ever have to worry about Quillins. Okay, you. Yeah, agreed. Black goodbye. what's your thoughts, mate? If you can come to the stage, I'd be really interested in to see what your verdict on all of this is. And I don't know if you've had time to actually look at it, but I would like your perspective as well. Holodiscus. Hi everyone, I'm Holodiscus and I'm a Sunforge addict. The truth is, Josh and Innis playing GSE and Necrons are conspiring against Kyle, and Nas has it only the way they beat them in the ITC for LVO. Well, I have it on good authority. Well, good authority. I chatted with his brother Nathan, but he was just like, nah, he's not going to take Necrons. I think Josh has been practicing with his Marine boys. But I respect these players enough to know that, look, we all have our little armies that we love, and sometimes they get nerfed, sometimes they get buffed. It's just the way of the land at the moment. So, good enough players to play whatever faction they want, and we'll just see on the final event, which is going to be LVO. Yeah, Jerabel, 100% on AOC, big bricks like Lamarty's Death Company. You want to put Crisis and Breaches and Riptide into it, and AOC mattered for every one of those. Yeah. Zorro put in the Tau Empire. Any changes? No, fuck you. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to put, like, the... if I do end up putting this up on YouTube, I'm going to have to say, yeah, there is swearing in it. This reminds me of when they saw Tau in 9th edition before the codex came out and dropped Riptides by 1 point. Yeah, just to show that they've been doing something. They saw us having fun with Red Cadre. I'm just going to use a red Sharpie and fix my Stormsurge points. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yeah, that's another thing that kind of annoyed me as well. I was like, come on! I want my Stormsurge to see the light of day. But no, apparently it's, perfectly balanced for 400 points. Yeah, like, I think it's key to say, poor Josh, right, I really do feel for him, because he has done some amazing work, right, for GW, and getting him on board was probably one of the best decisions GW ever did, or ever done, in my opinion, and everyone just sees it as Josh. Josh is the one person that's doing all the changes, and he either gets a pat on the back or a kick in the balls. Not the case, man. Like, it's a team of people, and at the end of the day, he is an employee, he's passionate about the game, he's done loads of changes, but even seeing him at events, even TOs and people come over to him like, oh Josh, can I ask you a question? And it's like, he's playing the game as well. He's a customer even though he's an employee. So he kind of has to take both ends of the stick, bless him, and act as a TO, and try and play the game, and still try and have fun. Poor guy. But at the end of the day, he's done some great work. And even though I'm pissed off about the Red Cadre stuff, I'm not going to blame any individual. I'll just blame James Workshop. But no, overall, I think all these changes, we would have never seen any of these changes like a year ago. The in-depth changes that they've done is just way beyond what we thought would be imaginable a year ago. Me sitting here not knowing tournaments at all, just throw dice with friend and eat potato chips. I mean, yeah, that is the life. Okay, so anybody want to come to the stage? Mappo, Piranha Rama time, Fast and Furious. How you doing, man? You good?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, fantastic, man. How are you feeling about all the changes?
Positive. I think it's good. All the armies that had a good matchup into us have suffered a bit, and all the ones which we are kind of good into have come up, so you'll see more of them, which is overall good for us. I'm sad we didn't get any changes. It's like disheartening to be like, oh, well, you get nothing. Well, it's Christmas for everybody.
Yeah.
But in the same vein, like, it's in terms of fun, that's pretty shit. But in terms of balance or power, that's fine. I don't mind getting nothing, because at least we aren't going down, relative to everyone else. I see us actually coming out better at the end of the day. And with the Retaliation Cadre, the 6-inch, change, yes, it sucks that we, suffer from it. It sucks that they didn't make some sort of provision for us like they did for GSE with their little bombs.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's a game-wide change. And I'm much more stoked that I don't have to defend against 3-inch deep strike than I'm sad that Retaliation Cadre lose it. Like, defending against 3-inch deep strike is much more difficult than defending against a 6-inch deep strike. And for me, that just makes my screening so much easier. Even if I was playing Retaliation Cadre where you have less units starting on the board in comparison to Mont'ka or Kauyon. Definitely for crude hunting back, you have way more units on the board than for retaliation. It just makes retaliation easier to screen out that deep strike now and put your own deep strikers on the board. So yeah, it takes away for less experienced players, it takes away the easiest application for the Sunforge units. I'll just drop it in 3.1 inches away. But like everyone's been saying, there's rapid ingress. You can start it on the board of the cold start. They're just going to have to, unfortunately, get better at positioning and movements to sort it out, which in the long run, it's better for their progression as a player anyway. So I see it as a positive data set overall for Tau.
Yeah, I agree. I like what you said there about just, I suppose, focusing on getting better. Because even I, like, when I get a point to split, I just have to think about this. I just do this, drop it in, do the damage. And sometimes, like, the rapid ingress with Red Cadre, I was only doing it for the rapid ingress to protect a primary in Overwatch. But now, and I usually found that 2 of my stealth suits never use the rapid ingress for free. But at least we've got the rapid ingress for free, and we can just really focus on optimal positioning for when people don't cover firing lanes, and we can just go, well, you know what, whoop, there we are, and I'm going to yeet forward. So I think that's just going to be a good quality of life change to really focus on those key things of getting better rather than just using a no-brainer. So I like that point there. I think that's a good way of looking at it. And hey,
it makes your life a little bit more difficult because you can't do it, but it makes your life substantially more easier not having to worry about your opponent doing it.
And I mean, we could be sisters that have just got absolutely shot in the back, shot in the kneecap, shot in the feet, strung up, like, all their stratagems changing to, like, 2 CP, the strength going to 6 inches rather than 12, the miracle dice being once per phase. And obviously for us, we're like, we're not going to interact with the charge phase or kill stuff, so it's just you get 1 miracle dice in the shooting phase. Good for you. Like, it's awesome. And the nerfs that have happened to these, armies that have been at the top is great. And Bulgrin, oh my god, thank god the Bulgrin are going in the bin. Like, fuck yeah.
Well, that's what David gets for coming off Riptides.
Yep.
No, I think Marines coming up is good for us. We are a Marine killer army. Like, our profiles are insane against them. So yeah, the more Marines I have to face, the better. Mm-hmm. I think it's good. I can see why people are pissed off. Like, I said on Reddit to one of the comments, like, people was talking about why is everyone so negative, and I'm like, well, it's understandable when everyone gets toys and you get nothing. Like, just no change. Even if there was like one positive thing, like someone got 10 points off or something, it would change like the dynamic. You're immediately like negative when it's like, oh, we get nothing. And so it like sets the tone, and then you view everything from like that light, and it just sort of compounds as you see other people getting nice stuff. It makes it even worse, and you kind of don't balance that against where people are actually getting shafted, like sisters. They have it so bad in comparison to us. So, and that matchup is going to be way, way easier now.
Yeah, and I think another thing to look at it as well is that, we're very emotionally attached to the game. And I think sometimes it's easier for us to be like, oh, even me with my comment of like, it's negligence. There's probably a part to somebody within this team going, you know what, I actually think we shouldn't do that 6 inches to 8 inches for the extra AP for Red Cadre because the Armor Contempt change is just one activation, and I think this would break it. And if it broke it in 3 months' time, we'd be severely being hit by nerfs. And I think there's a lot of that behind the sidelines that we don't see. So I can definitely see why maybe they've chosen not to, but it just feels like they've ignored us, but there might be reasons behind that. What I would say, though, is that even if they'd have gone, look, we're going to put up the Tiger Shark by 50 points, but you know what we're going to do? We're going to lower the Stormsurge by 50 points. I'd have been like, cool, that's like a new little thing that I can maybe play with and, see if it works, especially with Mont'ka and then all these tanks coming out and having Stormsurge. I'd be like, give us something. So I do feel that they could have at least looked at one data sheet that's maybe not used, and that's the whole idea, right? They look at what's not being used, maybe what's not selling, and they need to kind of push some products, but at the same time, just giving us a Stormsurge back to play with, a new tool to play with, I'd have been happy with that, to be honest. Even if it ends up being absolute shit, I'd have still tried to make it work.
Yeah, my like only gripe for Tau is that they didn't make the shortened blade 1 CP. That would be fair. Like, it being 2 CP and useless is absolutely nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
If it was gone down to 1 CP, you're not getting the buff, but 1 CP is fair for the positional advantage that it gives you, because you can squeeze into a smaller gap. Even though you're not going to get the buffs, just managing to get the unit in and actually shooting without Nalta, without everything else, is still an advantage, getting that position on your opponents. And 1 CP is fair for that, where 2 CP is way overpriced. 2 CP is fair for the buff and the positional advantage. But yeah, that's like my only gripe. And like, for points, they could have done things like Croutons down 5, or maybe the Ethereal down 5, just to try and get you to play more with them. Like, that would be like just something where we would go, okay, at least they considered our points. But it just looks like, oh, you know, they're taking a pot shot at the Tiger Shark. I joke that they put the Razor Shark up every single time because they're misclicking. They're meaning to hit the Tiger Shark. They just haven't realized that they're hitting the wrong model every time, and now they finally clicked like, fuck, it's actually the Tiger Shark, not the Razor Shark. And they're just playing catch up on all the points that it should have gone up. But like, even that, like, if it was 20, 25 points to start off with and just see what happens to it, but like 50 is big, you know. That's sort of like, if I was Lewis playing that list, I'd be like, oh bro, really? Like, I can take other things that do the same output, and it doesn't have the same factor in terms of ignoring like the obscuring, but 50 points is steep. Like 2025, see what happens come January when they're supposedly going to do another points update, like to smooth out rottenness and whatever. Like, okay, fine, if it needs another 25, sure, slap it on. But like, I think 50 is like heavy handed, but ultimately, like, that's neither here nor there in terms of how we coming out. I feel positive about the Dataslate in terms of our power level, and I think we'll move up a little bit in the meta. I don't think we'll just start dominating like S tier, but we'll stay like on the cusp, you know, hitting the final tables and maybe not making it every time, but sneaking a win here and there still. While maybe the others around us are going to change, so it's going to be different competition, but we'll still be at the table eating.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think the positive thing about this community doesn't need to really be said, because we're all here for a reason. But we are very kind of positive, and we are very mindful of everything else rather than just one-dimensional, oh, they've not done this and stuff like that. Yeah, we're only human. We're going to have rants and stuff, and that's just perfectly fine. But I genuinely think that, like, with a lot of skilled commanders in this group, not just myself, but we can start to, like, take our own experiences on the battlefield and feed back to each other and actually come up with some decent lists. Now, I know I'm going to be really analysing the meta for the next couple of weeks. I've got LVO. Literally, I've got 2 events. I've got Nottingham and LVO. So the pressure on me personally, not for you guys, just the pressure on me to crack this code and come out with a list after all of the Grotmus detachments plus the balanced data slate, I'm like, holy fuck. I've got to create some ultimate spice to be able to account for all of the changes. So I'm going to be sweatshopping, I'm going to be cooking, and I'm going to come up with some spicy lists. Now, I've noticed a couple of people in the chat have said, be curious about the Mont'ka style list. I've not honestly had time just to pick up my phone and do anything other than the content I've been working on. But the list that I posted with the Mont'ka missiles is an indication. I mean, come on. Missile broadsides, we know they're cool models, right? We've been obsessed with the rails because of the anti-tank. But fuck it, full rerolls to hit with the stratagem from Mont'ka, full rerolls to wound because it's twin-linked, lethals, potentially sustained if you guide with the exploitation enhancement. Oh yes, just dice, kill. Oh, and by the way, my Mont'ka's ran out. Oh well, I'm still really good at clearing Marines and infantry. So, just mass dice, bro. I'm really excited about this, to be fair. And breacher spam, I love my breachers. And I could even see crazy lists with like, sod it, 6 breachers, 4 devilfish, or whatever it is, and just go yeet. So we still got loads of exciting combos we're yet to explore, and maybe some of those combos are stuff that we've already visited months back, and it's an entire cycle. So we're just going to look at different combos again differently versus armies that are being presented to us. So a lot of people have said missile finite, commander, lethals, rerolls, damage output into tech. Yeah, it's all good. And then, yeah, the extra
Maybe it's also a good opportunity, like people who are feeling like, oh, they don't want to play Retaliation Cadre now with this, to like swap to something like Kauyon or Mont'ka and play a different playstyle. Like Ollie was saying, you know, we've been playing Kauyon the whole time, like, and it's still good. It's still gonna be good. Like, maybe swap to that. Try a different playstyle. You know, tempo control style play instead of just aggressiveness. And just like perfect that side of your game a bit. And when you go back to the aggressive style, then when you do make those plays, it's not your primary like strategy now, but it'll be so much more impactful because you've refined it just by forcing yourself to have it as your main like way of playing. So it's like it's opportunities to learn all the time, and I think shaking things up is good. I don't know when the LVO like rules cutoff is, or when they are, if they're allowing grotness, but like they could drop a really fucking janky CSM detachment tomorrow, which just changes everything. It could just be like, oh, this is a hard counter to the Necrons, and then what? And then what? Like everyone's fussing over Necrons, and it's like, well, now they're fucked, you know. And then the next day they could drop some Marine faction that just totally screws that up again. It's so shaky at the moment. I think we've really got to wait until like end of January to kind of get a feel for where things are actually going to lie into like the first quarter of next year. Yeah, it's just so tumultuous right now.
The pack hasn't been sent out yet for LVO, just the general player pack. So, and then the event itself is the week. It's like the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so the 17th to 19th. So we're gonna have like list submission. Let's just assume that it's like the weekend before. That leads us up to like the 12th. So then we've got 2 weeks of January when they maybe do a patch up, like you said. Maybe they release a little extra points change and adjustments to the detachments. But then all of this stuff is going to be in play for LVO. It's going to be like wild, wild west. And it's going to be so exciting. The data that we'll get from LVO and any events that are before that is going to be crazy good. So you're going to have, obviously in the UK, outside of little GTs and RTTs that are happening, there's going to be Nottingham, which is in the 11th and 12th, which means that obviously the list submission will be the 5th of January. So then you've got this event here. And then after, for me personally, I've got the Nottingham event, I've then got LVO, and then when I get back, there's the teams tournament at the end of January as well. So those are three events: a UKTC, a Frontline Gaming, and then a teams event that I'm going to be able to report back on all of this stuff that happens. So you're going to get perfect information from me and actual live kind of thoughts and suggestions towards your list to tackle the meta that's going to happen over the next 6 to 8 weeks. So it's going to be really good for us.
Yeah, I think like there's no point like stressing too much while we're getting new detachments every day, because it's just going to shake everything up. This is like the point of the roller coaster where it's just like really hit the big drop, and you kind of just have to shout out in excitement because crying isn't going to help, right? Like, you just got to enjoy the ride right now, because every day it's going to be something else, and you know, just go along with it. Play fun, try things, just do whatever you want. Don't take it seriously right now until like middle of January. Then, you know, we can knuckle down on things properly. But right now it's just like every day is a new flippin' a new crazy. So yeah, I'm just enjoying it, seeing what's coming out, and I'm actually quite impressed with GW's rules writing at the moment. The new detachments are actually stellar. I like them. Okay, some are overtuned, some are a little bit under, but like in terms of what they're doing with a combination of rules, it's really exciting. I can't wait to see what they give us for Tau.
Yeah, man, we'll just have to wait and see. I think I need to play a bit of catch up on chat because I've got 114 messages.
Okay, I'm going to jump out and keep typing the content.
No worries, man.
Listening in there.
Cheers, man, for your input. Much appreciated, as always. So,
no worries.
Icebox, how do we feel about Sunforges now? Worth it in Red Cadre or move to Skyray? Sunforges are still good. At the end of the day, 4-up in runs are great. They move quick with Sunforges without cold stars, maybe not. Sunforges with cold stars, absolutely yes. So in terms of my previous list where I've kind of gone one Enforcer with fusions with a Sunforge, Farsight with Sunforge, I'll still have Farsight with a Sunforge, but maybe I go with 2 cold stars, both of them with fusions, all with 2 Sunforge, and then 1 cold star with all the bursts with a burst Star Scythe unit. That's something that I'd probably do in a change to my list, just to give those Sunforges the speed that they need to get within that melter range. You know, drop in, have one on the board, move out, kill something early, fire and fade, the other one rapid ingress, move in, kill something, fire and fade, that kind of thing. So I still think they're really good. So do not get disheartened and do not just immediately drop them from the list. Crisis suits with 4-up inbuns and fire and fade are still good. Tyler, how effective do you think deep striking will be? I'm a Red Cadre man through and through, so I will use Red Cadre even if it's the underdog. First off, good man. Always good to keep that kind of spirit up, especially when I love underdog. I absolutely do. It's how I became successful with Tau. Just obsessed about the army and keep playing it no matter what was happening. So keep playing to your strengths and your playstyle. I see myself having to utilize rapid ingress a lot to take down big vehicles, but bringing stuff in and have it not to be tied down in melee before next turn could be very hard against good players. What do you think the new strat is to get those big vehicles down? Or a new strategy? Okay, so again, you know, if you look back to my Coventry list that had more screens like double Crutes, double strikes, double Vespid, you can obviously, with my 21 Crisis Suits and 7 Commanders build that I took to WCW, you can shave off like a unit of Crisis Suits, maybe 2 units of Crisis Suits, and then put in more screens and more stuff. Maybe you bring 1 long range, like I know Donald has been using his Red Cadre list that he's found his stride with, and the good thing is that his list, or all our lists, haven't been changed by points, so he'll be able to utilize that kind of repetition that he's had, but then maybe make a few adjustments to the meta. So I still think that the long range firepower can be broadsides, or could even have 2 railgun hammerheads if you maybe want to go lighter on the Sunforge. So in answer to your kind of question about making sure that you're not being locked down in combat, then again, an extra screen, a Crute unit, 65 points. It's great. Sticky objectives, scout move 7, blah, blah, blah. Really good. Vespid, being able to uppy downy and go into places and present them a new screen that wasn't quite there or in range to move into a screening position, means that the Vespid can just drop in and present a screen where needed. So you shouldn't have an issue with protecting your Sunforge. But another thing you can do as well is use your Star Scythe burst unit or Star Scythe flaming unit to screen your Sunforge unit, because your Star Scythe guys can fall back and shoot, so they can be used as a screen as well. So all these little things, maybe put an extra screen in or utilizing your Star Scythe to screen the Sunforge, means that you're constantly keeping your Sunforge and Cold Star active so that they can yeet out and get to those vehicles that you're obviously wanting to kill. So hopefully that's answered your question, Tyler. Your username just says J ... but I think the annoying thing is that they buff the shortened blade by just saying if you get +1 AP, we lose the melter range, but everything else is fine. Agreed. We've already discussed that, but I do agree. I feel you. I'm with you on that camp. Would we see would the Stormsurge be a good idea to bring for a Mont'ka list? You know what? I would 100% agree if it had had some treatment on the points. A 400 point Titanic unit isn't good. We're not knights. You know, yes, the Stormsurge has some decent DACA. In Mont'ka specifically, with they being able to do the strike swiftly scout move and then the move in the auto advance, means a Stormsurge can actually get to places. And you can maybe have another one, rapid ingress it, move and auto advance it. Absolutely. But for 400 points, come on, GW, it needs to be cheaper. If it was 350, absolutely can see one being quite a good linchpin to like a bullet magnet, but also being able to, if the opponent deploys badly, you can penalize them by going, well, you thought you were safe, but knock knock, here comes a Stormsurge, take my pulse blast cannon to your face and have 24 damage. So I would have liked to see some treatment for the Stormsurge there, because I think, one, if you've modelled it with arms and done the conversions, it looks really cool. I really don't like it with arms, it looks derpy as fuck. But I do think that thing is actually really decent. But for 400 points, no. They changed Custodian's bikes and stuff. Paragon's got better in the beginning, and yet our crisis suits don't get the same love. Feels like GW intentionally ignores Tau. I think, just to objectively look at that, Twin Turbo, I think sometimes they don't know what to do with Tau, even though we've actually been kind of balanced, even from the index. I just think that it's such a volatile meta where some armies just go to suddenly broken and then they get nerfed into oblivion and they're not seen again, and then they get buffed again and they come back and then they get nerfed again, so on and so forth. Towers just always sit around that center point. And another thing, like Space Marines, is we're a very popular army, so a lot of people play the faction. So the percentages are somewhat non-factual, because you have your average Joe players which likes to play Tau, and then you've got your hyper competitive, then you can filter in the stats to the top elo players and things like that. And even then, when I did look at the meta, Tau were like sitting at the top elo rating of like 60%, along with Eldar at the bottom. So again, like, it's, the data can be somewhat skewed, but sometimes it does feel like they just kind of gloss over us and be like, let's not talk about the problem, because Tau have been historically very broken in the past with the drone mechanic and various other things and the stupid detachments we had with the Riptide wing in the past. So they've got it horribly wrong in the past, and Tau have become broken, and then we got nerfed, and then we really felt the pain. So now they've just kind of left us alone, not done anything too good or too bad to us, just to keep us ticking over. James Workshop is going to James Workshop. Yep, fair. That guy's just a poster boy anyway. Surely he doesn't do anything. Shaking fist from acidic. Worried. 100% they won't fix our issues. They ignored the broadsides for Feel No Pain. Yes, there is a little bit of the things, like some things that have gone amiss, and it always tends to feel like, oh, they forgot about our 4+ Feel No Pain. They forgot about our Puretide chip. Now they forgot about Red Cadre, so what's next? I get it. I really do. And then obviously they nerfed our ranges for the the Sunforge, the fusions and the plasmas. Felt a bit unnecessary, and now we're in a position where we're like, if we'd had that extra range, it wouldn't be a problem. So it's kind of something that they fixed without a real reason, because I didn't really see the reason why they nerfed the 24 to 18 and then the 18 to 12. But then the game was played in a very mid kind of ranged firefight, if you will. So maybe they thought, well, that's excessive, let's just drop it down. I don't know. But now we're feeling it, whereas before we were like, okay, well, I can get around it, it's not a problem. But now we want that range back. Maybe these are future things that they'll factor in, but data is the thing that drives change. I'm choosing to be here instead of in my work insurance enrollment course. I mean, Johnny, I wouldn't expect anything less, man. Warhammer is life. Stormsurge being 350, I'd cream my pants. Yep, agreed. I want to use them. Why is Kios especially good against Vanguard? Yeah, Cookie Zoro's answered that. I would be happy with 1 CP. Yeah. 3-inch, 6-inch deep strike, 1 CP. I think the good thing as well is that the quality of life of in your movement phase. So it stops. The other good thing as well to look at it, and we've not really mentioned it, is I had a game against Tyranids, and they have a Trigon. I have no interest in putting out my stuff on Purge the Foe on a center objective, because he'll just get an extra kill. But I had to do it because he could rapid ingress a Trigon 3. So you can actually now, because it's now in your movement phase, then you don't have to worry too much about constantly having to screen out a rapid ingress. So I like that. I think that's a good change for the game. I think new detachment at the beginning of the game, select Mont'ka or Kauyon. I think Siegler mentioned something on there, or very, very like kind of like subtly or slyly, and I think it was to do with I can't remember which detachment it was. He basically said, "Oh, I'd love that for Mont'ka, being able to choose when to go into Mont'ka." And I was like, "Oh, that's actually I quite like that idea. With Mont'ka, you just choose when to activate it, and then it's consistent." So yeah, being able to have the selection of being able to know, well, when you want to do your detachment, maybe that's something we see in the future. I don't know. But obviously Kauyon 345, Mont'ka 123, it's kind of telegraphed, and it'd have to have a full rewrite, because all of the stratagems in Mont'ka, again, are centered around turns 1, 2, and 3, and Kauyon 3, 4, and 5. So if they did make a change to the detachment rule, they'd have to change everything else, like stratagem-wise. It's a full rewrite, and at that point, it just gives a new codex. Usually have 2-man rail sides and Sunforge with far side for anti-tank and 2 breaches for screen and objective control. My brain didn't immediately think about using my fallback shoot units to screen out. This is why I subscribe to you, Kyle. Thanks, Tyler. But yeah, like it's something that I kind of worked out as well within games. It's like, well, I was too obsessed about making sure that everything wasn't tagged because I wanted everything to move fast. But then I thought to myself, well, I can fall back. I've got movement 12. And then when they tag me, I still then get my pile-in move. So that can be an added extra 3 inches. So it's not 12 really. With a clever pile-in move, I'm actually going 15. Because then I can fall back. I've got an extra 3 inches. Because they just tag one dude. 3 inches that way. And then can move. So I can use my piling move to get me that little bit of extra range when I fall back and shoot. So yeah, little plays like that can be the difference between winning games and losing games. Okay. Yeah, so Mappo, and then followed up by Dave. We also don't know what our new detachment will look like, and the reason nothing has changed is because of that context. Maybe. Hey man, we've not had the detachment. Like the rumors that I've seen, but it's been very flippant, and there's no other information that I've received, is a Unification cadre, which is like an ethereal one. Now let's talk about that for a second. Okay, so even though a lot of us don't like ethereals, and I would agree that I am on that bandwagon because I'm just a Farsight boy through and through. But the one thing that I actually did like is that ethereals did at least their unique thing. They had a chart, they had abilities, they interacted with the game rather than sitting there and going, CP? No, sorry, I'm not feeling it. I just can't focus. No, I'm not focusing it. Oh, I got you that CP. Oh, you don't need it anymore? Oh, okay. Sorry. And that's it. And then I can make my little dudes more durable. And you're like, yeah, but your little dudes still die. That's it. It was boring. It was not creative. It was just flat up an insult. If a detachment brings the flavour back to ethereals and actually gives them a unique role, then even though I'm Farsight forever, I will at least consider it, because as long as it has an application towards the problems that are in front of us and it provides us a potential solution to said problems, I'm game. Like, cool. I don't know what it might look like. I don't know what the rest of the detachment rule was. Imagine like a, you know, we really suffer with leadership, right? Where leadership's 7 across the board. And then Shadows of War comes along for Tyranids and it can just ruin our day. But if Ethereals actually did an inspiring presence on the battlefield and added extra leadership across the board within an aura range, then suddenly you've got leadership 6 units. And then if not Farsight, because he doesn't want to be anywhere near Ethereals, but like other units like Shadow Sun, she could be in leadership 5, and then you got more of a durable way of actually holding on to primaries by not being battle shocked. And then there could be other buffs, I don't know. And then the other thing that we're all praying for is a style of vehicle detachment. And maybe they're like, we didn't give you anything in the balanced Dataslate, but Long Strike's back. If they brought Long Strike back out of Legended, I'd be like, you're forgiven, GW, let's go. And a vehicle detachment with Borkan, that would be really exciting. So obviously the wish list is the vehicle detachment, some sort of style of like Borkan from the past. But obviously some of the one rumour that I've seen is a unification with Ethereals. Both of these are still part of the Tower identity, so we'll just have to wait and see. We don't know. I've not got any other information apart from one person saying, these are the rumours for detachments. You can't really use that as evidence. Unvar is back. Oh god, can you imagine? The Space Pope. Yeah. How many times does he have to be dead to not be dead? What? But look, maybe Unvar comes back. 2 up in Vun, lone arc dude. Does anybody want to come to stage and talk to me? Does anybody want me to go through anything? Because I know I've had the balanced Dataslate up there as a viewable document, but I find actually talking to you guys and engaging with you guys way more exciting than going through a document. I can kind of do like the document anyway later to kind of like give a synopsis anyway in the contents thing, so we don't really need to go through it. Yep, Mark, I'll bring you to the stage. How you doing, Mark? You good?
Yeah, good. Yeah, how are you? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good, man. It's almost like that list that I gave you the other night, ready for your event, is actually better now.
It is, yeah. You know, man. You know things.
I know.
I won't take it.
Apparently I do, but I'm afraid to say I don't. I'm just old, and I've been playing this game for far too long that I recognise trends and data.
I'm expect to be lucky than good, though, Kyle. So I'll take that.
Fair enough, man. So, how you doing, buddy? What's your question?
Two things then. So I take it you've been ingesting this all day, digesting it, let it ruminate, all that caper.
Yeah.
Biggest buff, biggest nerf.
Okay. The biggest buff is that I can see right now is that we've still got away scot-free on units that even for myself felt too cheap. So even though no change is disappointing, but Star Size staying at 110, Enforcer Commanders staying at 80, Vespid staying at 65, because for their data sheet, a 65 point unit with uppy downy and pretty decent profiles, and if Marines are going to start to have an insurgence, then AP 2 damage and armor contents being activation locked for like one thing, that unit is absolute golden. So I think that in itself for us is a buff. The biggest, I suppose, debuff, I have been digesting stuff, and unfortunately I've not spent enough time to say what is a down thing for us without saying something that's already been mentioned on this call. And I think that the emotional side of me is still feeling like the Red Cadre 6 inches and the 6-inch change to deep striking for the stratagem is a nerf, and the same with not being able to easily proc the extra AP. But I've already said that, and that's the obvious thing at the beginning of the call. But outside of that, I've not really had enough time to properly like sieve through everything and think, actually guys, this is going to be a bad thing for us. Right now, all I'm seeing is positives with the way that lists have been built around this new slate.
I joined the call late, so apologies for that.
Yeah, no worries. No, I
just
apologise.
Things have moved around us a little bit, I think, now.
Yeah, agreed.
You know, I think some stuff that was above is now probably pulled back into our range of like competitiveness, and I think some things like Space Marines are pushing through a little here. I think it could be quite interesting.
Yeah, and like Black Goodbye was saying earlier, is like we don't really have issues dealing with Marines. And I think the fact that you personally have been really enjoying your Mont'ka, I actually think, you know, Mont'ka is super powerful at the moment against some of the lists that I'm seeing being developed around Marines with like the Iron Storm style with loads of vehicles, and the Necrons with loads of vehicles, and Lethal's really good. So I do think Mont'ka is going to see more play, and that's great because me personally, I love the Mont'ka and Kauyon kind of like war philosophy in Tau, and it just kind of saddened me a little bit that I was just obsessed with Kauyon and then Red Cadre, and then I Kroot for a bit, and I'm feeling like as calling myself Commander Puretide, I need to play all the detachments, and now finally the Mont'ka one is actually ingrassed to being very meta, and I'm quite excited about that.
You got an opportunity in January, mate? Yeah.
I know, man. I just need to knuckle down and create the perfect list to go into this volatile and unprecedented meta. So I'm going to be sweatshopping. Did you say you have any other questions as well? Because you said you started with.
I've got a list for you, Kyle.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Yeah, you gave it me last night, mate.
Yep. True. Missiles for days.
Hey, look. Cheers for your time, mate. That's all I wanted to say.
No worries, Mark. Thanks. Always a pleasure.
Bye.
Can we talk Mont'ka? I can't come to stage, but what exactly makes it attractive right now? So, Dave, think about previous lists, or previous armies that were very volatile in the meta. So let's just choose two. We had Imperial Guard, which had, Rogel Dawns, tank commanders, chimeras, and then it had loads of Borgrin. Then we had Sisters, Bringers of Flame, which was just faster than us, castigators, indirect, and emmulators. So even though we could go Mont'ka and lethals and tackle it tank on tank, Red Cadre just did it better because we had the Sunforges, we could have loads of units everywhere, and then Kauyon could slow it down and then get sustain hits too, take a couple of Railguns. So the solutions were actually better in Red Cadre and Kauyon to tackle said armies. But the rest of the factions around those two needed us also to go Red Cadre or Kauyon. But right now, all I'm seeing from a glance from today is vehicle build, vehicle build, vehicle build. Custodies, tanks, guard are going to probably shift to loads of tanks now. They're not going to bother with Borgrin, they're just going to go mass bodies. They're going to go loads of infantry. Scion's got a massive increase in points, so maybe they're going to go standard bricks, maybe they're going to go Death Corps Krieg, so on and so forth, and they're still going to take the tanks, and they're still going to take loads of bodies. Okay, so if we look at the guard thing, then when we've got speed, piranhas, tanks can go on tanks, piranhas can yeet up and get aggressive. We've got riptides even, or missile fire knives, or burst star sights. Marines, they're going to go double oath now, and loads of tanks, and probably still some infantry units to have to deal with the combat threats. Again, we've got breaches for that. Armor content can only really protect them for one activation. And then because your AP stratagem is 2 units targeting, your breaches can be AP2, but then go to AP1 for the first AOC, and the second unit is AP2, and you'll be ignoring cover, double Pathfinder guiding, so on and so forth. So that obviously helps us against the Marines. And then, look, the list could go like on and on and on. At the moment, Guard and Marines and Custodies are all going tank, and that's just 3 of them, just that I know of at this point. And then everything else, if, for example, they go more Horde, like Tyranids with loads of warriors and loads of Hormagaunts, then, well, yeah, I've still got lethals, I've still got breaches that are mass shots, I've still got iron hammerheads that are mass shots and blast. So you can tech for both Horde and tanks. Hence why I think Mont'ka is going to be very good, because it's got an answer to both dealing with tanks in the early game or forcing the engagements, and then also can still clear mass bodies. And then placebos, but yeah, giving broadside speedy boots. So hopefully that's helped put a little bit of perspective on Mont'ka, Dave. Jeribel, I'm bringing you to the stage, man.
Hello.
How you doing, man? Long time no speak. How the hell are you?
Oh, mate. It's been a couple of months, but that's that's how it goes sometimes. I'm getting back into the swing of Warhammer. I've got a tournament this weekend, so it's going to be good.
Which tournament, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, just a little one. It's Gothic Games down in Canterbury, just an RTT, but I really like the events they put on down there.
Nice.
Yeah. So I've listening avidly to this, and I've really enjoyed it. My question is for the sort of the Kauyon diehards like me and maybe Black Goodbye and a couple of others. What direction, in maybe a little bit more detail, and I know it's speculative, what kind of direction do you see list building going for Kauyon into the sort of upcoming meta? Because you've talked a lot about vehicles, you've talked a lot about those chunky builds, and so I'm thinking like, oh god, is it going to be like triple hammerhead? Is it going to be like, and a sky ray and just, like lots of hulls and lots of screens? Or do you think there's some other ways that we can kind of take our Kauyon lists and evolve them based on what you're seeing?
Yeah, so I think, even though I've talked a lot about Mont'ka, I think the Kauyon builds are... I'm kind of going to go and fall back to what I did for War Masters. I actually think that if we're starting to see a lot more vehicles, what can you do with Kauyon to tackle this? So you've already seen in my Leicester Kauyon list that I had like the double hammerhead with rails and one hammerhead with the ion cannon. Now, that still helps you in terms of that early firefight, the angles, and I know that Jerable, you play on UKTC, so this is going to be direct to you. So those railgun hammerheads are very good for on UKTC boards. The other thing that I think we can do is actually put in a Sunforge unit with a Cold Star with the Exemplar of Kauyon for the rapid ingress play, move it out, kill some stuff, and then die in return, or at least soak up a lot of firepower to kill them, and then it opens up an avenue for your Riptides to go out. I also think that with the Horde style that might come alongside vehicle spam detachments or armies, we still have breachers in Devilfish. In my Leicester list, I still took 2. No cadres. Maybe we jig around a little bit. Maybe we drop the Iron Hammerhead, and we drop... just thinking about my Leicester list, what I would drop is maybe an Iron Hammerhead and one of my Kroot screens or something, just to put in the Sunforge and Cold Star with the Exemplar of Kauyon. And then maybe I drop Shadow Sun and put in 2 Cadre Fireblades. So that would be just like, off the top of my head, just thinking about a change, like drop an Iron Hammerhead, drop a Kroot screen, maybe some other stuff, and then maybe I don't quite get 2 Cadres, maybe I get 1 Cadre, drop Shadow Sun, drop a Kroot screen, and then end up with the Sunforge plus the Cold Star guy, because that would be... what is it? 195 plus 20, it's 115. That's 265. 145. So I need to drop 130. You get where I'm trying to go. What I'm trying to do here.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
Completely. And I really like that, because I think one of the the tank options in Kauyon that we've got, Sky Rays, Hammerheads, they're obviously awesome. And when you do hit those 6s on the sustained, you feel like a god, and everything fucking explodes, and it's brilliant. But more, for a Hammerhead, that happens once every 6 shots, right? Whereas with the Sunforges, they're gonna, and as you say, with the Sunforges and the Exemplar of the Kauyon, that's going to pop off much more, and it's going to be much more flexible into 4-up invulnerables, a much wider array of things, even though maybe you're wounding on 5s. But then you've got some tools for that in Kauyon as well from turn 3 onwards. So I think that's a really interesting idea. I hadn't sort of thought of that, because I was very fixed on the Plasma City kind of builds, because they've been so reliable for me.
But there's also things that you can do with, like, if you remember, like, me talking when I designed my War Masters Plasma City list, it was very much a case of, like, well, okay, I'm going to move out, rapid ingress, kill something, then Overwatch, and then the other unit comes in with Farsight, +1 to wound, so on and so forth. So it's a layering of both speed and early game pressure that's actually damaging. So I know Ghost Kills are a favoured option because they can just sit and do their thing, but they're not really giving you that damage output that you need. And if a meta around us gets aggressive, especially with like the new Necron detachment, stuff like that, you're going to need to actually play the early game with damaging units. So sending out a Sunforge or a Crisis team to go and do their thing and then die gives the breathing space that your rest of your army needs to then suddenly go out on turn 3. And I remember one of the best rolls, and it wasn't even like a crazy roll in terms of above average, it was just average, was a Cadre Fireblade with a 10-man Breacher unit going out, doing on the trap objective for the Void Dragon, grenading him and killing him with +1 to wound, sustain hits 2, wounding on 4s with full rerolls. Just went, get wrecked. Like, that is still a combo that you can do with Kauyon, providing that you've got enough pieces to keep that damage hammer intact, ready to go and do the thing that I've just explained. So if you factor in then like a Sunforge going out turn 2, doing its thing, they have to deal with that, and then it's turn 3, you've got your Riptides active, and you've got this Cadre Fireblade and Breacher combo that can just go and nuke anything, whether it's a vehicle, or whether it's a big monster, or whether it's just a unit. That is still a decent hammer for Kauyon, and I think that's the way I would take the Kauyon build. Maybe peel back a little bit, and just try to flex in these early aggressive pieces that are going to go out and do the thing earlier rather than banking on doing it later.
That's super interesting. Yeah, that's really exciting. I really look forward to seeing how that gets on and trying a few things myself as well. I should have a bit of time to get into the events first half of next year. So yeah, it's just really exciting. I do feel sorry for all the Red Cadre people because I hear everything you're saying there. But I think, as I've said, like, this slate has made me feel really excited for Kauyon, even though I don't quite know which way it's going to go. And I think it's been really good for us.
Yeah,
anyway, thanks. Really appreciate it.
No worries, man. And I think with the Red Cad stuff, I will obviously help those Red Cad lovers out there. Don't you worry. I will be very focused on all the detachments, and I will be kind of like, give me some time to digest everything. And what I will do is, in the commanders lists, I will give you a list once I've literally had time to look at everything. I'm not going to do it straight away because that won't serve a purpose, because I'll just be doing it off maybe a little bit of gut and early information. As soon as I've had enough time to digest what's going on and I've had a little bit of a sneaky peek on what other people are creating, I will create a list for each detachment so that you can all see it and then take inspiration from it, maybe use it to the letter, or take elements of what is in my list into yours. So don't worry about that, you're in safe hands. Does anybody else want to come to the stage and ask me anything, or does anybody have any questions they want to put in the chat? Whilst you're thinking, this has been a really good session, guys. I obviously really enjoy it, and keep it coming. Hello, Hollow Discus.
Oh, I still have not gotten the hang of not automatically joining the stage. I apologize for that.
Don't worry about it.
Something that I've been thinking of is I've fallen in love with the Flamer unit, the 10d6 Flamer unit in Red Cadre. And I've been wondering, I think if one of the biggest changes that we see to some of the lists that are taking 15 or 18 suits is that we end up dropping that specific unit because the Strength 5 is not going to be quite as good into the tank spam things like the Necrons that we're going to start seeing. And also because if Marines do start to dominate the meta, we don't have any trouble killing Marines. And additionally, I think I'm sorry, I'm like my mind is a plate of spaghetti right now.
Don't worry.
I think that Custodies are going to be a bigger problem than they were before, specifically because I've been testing out building some Custodies lists, and you can do some pretty disgusting things with some chaff units in the Sisters of Silence and a Rhino and whatnot, and then having 3 units of Wardens and then 3 units of 3 bikes, and the bikes are going to be, honestly, they might be kind of a nightmare with some of the changes that they received at their new defensive profiles. We don't have great options outside of Plasma Fire Knife specifically for dealing with them, and then even then, I mean, 4-pin bones are 4-pin bones. You never know how they're going to go. So I wonder how that is going to look. What, I guess, bringing it back to my original thing that I was thinking, I wonder if the 10d6 Flamer unit is less of an auto include in the future.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I would agree straight away. My thought process is going in the exact same way as you, and I was looking at my 10d6 unit and going, well, if I'm going to end up dropping, like, my brain was thinking, okay, so maybe my list might need to dial down on the crisis suits and maybe sneak in a unit of broadsides again. So how would I do that? And I was thinking, with the first unit to go on the chop would be the Flamer combo. And because the Strength 6 burst cannons can actually punch up into vehicles, and then I've got the option to put the Cold Star with them, with maybe the missile pods to, compensate, whatever it is. I was thinking, okay, cool. So if I just go with 3, my main thought process was like, all right, I want 3 Cold Stars. How am I going to attach them? Well, 2 of them are now going to have to go with Sunforge to be able to have 1 on the board and 1 for rapid ingress. So that leaves me with 1 Cold Star. So I put 1 Cold Star with all the burst, the high output burst, the 2 burst cannons, a Cyclic, and I put him with a burst unit. Okay, so then I've got 2 other units now that maybe I've dropped one, so I've got one other star scythe that I want to put in. Well, let's still do it with burst, but maybe give it armor contempt because it's a constant effect in the shooting phase now, rather than the AOC being changed. For stratagems, it doesn't apply to the enforcer. So I was thinking maybe I just put a cyclic and 3 missile pods with a Starside team and just have it as a mid-table brawler. So I do think actually dropping the 10d6 flamer unit and having 2 burst stars will be able to punch up into light transports whilst also being able to mow down infantry. And then prioritizing the cold stars to go with 2 Sunforge teams. Maybe I only go with 2 Sunforge teams and maybe broadsides, and then maybe Farsight can go with, you know, a Starsight team or something. Maybe, you know, or a Plasma Fire Knife team. So having another Plasma Fire Knife or maybe a missile unit. You see my thought process now. So it's like...
Yeah, so that's actually the same process I was going through. I'm going to be trying out 1 Sunforge unit, and then maybe double burst Star Scythe, and then like double Fire Knife, and then whether that's double plasma or like plasma missile, I'm not super sure yet.
Yeah.
So it's good to know we're on the same page.
We're on the same page.
I'm tracking.
And I think also another thing is that the missile Fire Knife unit, I'm still a big question mark on them because I found in a lot of my games I've not needed the range. So it's not necessarily the fact that armor contempt means that, you know, missile sides are great now, or the change to armor contempt. It's almost that same question of like, well, yeah, but 30-inch range, do I need it? Because most of the games with Red Cadre is decided in the mid-board. So I'm like, okay, cool. I might be able to still shoot things at AP1, but I don't need the range. And do you know what's better when it's up close and personal? Burst cannons. So I'm like, you know what?
It might be a really good... Sorry, you go.
No, I was about to say, and the final thing was like, but what I really like is Plasma Fire Knives, because Strength 8 to Strength 9 can deal with low transports, meaning that I don't have to submit my Sunforge to kill low transports. I can focus on going for the heavy hitters with my Sunforge.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think this might be a really good discussion to have with Donald Plummer. I know he's not in the call right now, but he is on there. I know I believe last I saw his 6-0 list had a unit of missile fire knives in it.
Yeah.
And so he seems to be having some good success with it. It may be worthwhile to have a discussion about that with him.
Absolutely.
But in any case, that's all I had. So thanks for...
Cheers, man.
Thanks for talking.
You're welcome. Thanks for your time. So in terms of this, part of my other plan as well, and again, I've got lots of things that I'm spinning the plates off. Sorry, let's start that again. I'm spinning a lot of plates, and I'm doing a lot of things in the background to increase the quality of what we have here. And the one thing that I've always had a concept knocking around in my head, and I wanted to kind of put it to light a little bit for next year, is that I really like hearing about the successes that lots of Tau players are having out there, and there's a broad spectrum of top Tau players out there that don't even really get a proper mention. Just to name a few off the top of my head, is you've got Will B, that's been absolutely dominating the UKTC scene at the moment. He's doing really well, and he's still part of this, Discord, and honestly, seeing his development since he first started to now is super inspiring for me. You've got Donald, who's in the US, absolutely again smashing face with his Red Cadre, and has been solely on Red Cadre since pretty much the beginning. You've got Jason McKenzie, who's been rocking like Mont'ka. Then you've got oh god, there's so many. You've got it's gonna do my head in. Forgot his name. It's really embarrassing. We did a video together. He was rocking the Mont'ka detachment, and then he changed over to Kroot. I'm so sorry, buddy. I'm gonna find your name now because I feel like a tit. 1 minute. Tony Barrett. So sorry, buddy. Tony Barrett, who's been doing his Mont'ka, and he came up with this list concept that was really good for dealing with T-Suns. And then you've had, obviously, Lewis Smith in the UK as well, who's been running the Kauyon with the Tiger Shark. So lots of really good Tau players out there. going against the grain, doing their own thing, and having really good success. And my concept was I'd love to do like kind of a YouTube video or some content with these other town generals in like kind of one place and talk and give you multiple perspectives on the faction and how it's performing and how they're developing their own unique play style and their lists to tackle their meta or what they're thinking is needed. So I'm really got some plans going forward for that as well. Black Goodbye is being an absolute hero as per usual and is helping me develop a library. And at the moment, we are working very like behind the scenes at the moment to perfect a few things and a few admin things that we need to sort out with the software that we're using. But it's going to be a library available to just click on and see factions and faction focus and just get the information straight ready for you to actually go into a tournament game. Picture the scene: you're going against Death Guard, the new Flyborn host. You can click on the faction focus, you can click on Death Guard, click on the detachment, and voila, you've got all the information ready for you. No scrolling through Wikipedia, no scrolling for this, no sending like multiple messages out to everyone saying what does this do, what does that do. It's all going to be there as a library. This is going to be the pinnacle of like the Puretide program. It's going to be phenomenal, and then we're going to work on what information is being shown to different tiers and different levels. So honestly, I cannot thank Black Goodbye enough for what he's doing on this one, because trust me, I come up with a little idea. I even said to him, I was like, look mate, I know you're going to do it better than my idea, so just crack on and do your thing. And trust me, he's absolutely aced it at the moment. So I'm really excited for the things that I'm going to plan going forward. And I want this to be the hive of activity that nobody else can even touch. So it's going to be the best thing on God Green Earth for Tau players. So please stay tuned and ready for this. But anyway, enough rambling. We've been going nearly an hour and a half. I'm going to be putting this video up on a YouTube to showcase everything that we're doing, but I want to open up the next like 5-10 minutes for any more kind of questions, any more thoughts and ideas, and also questions that you might have towards Tau at its current state and the meta in front. If nobody has anything, then obviously we'll end the call. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for taking part in this. Stay tuned. There's going to be lots of information. I'm going to be finishing off the Grotmas calendar reviews on YouTube over the next month. And I've now completed the Chassel tournament reviews for the Leicester Kauyon. And obviously you've got the WCW there. And I'm going to be working on other content as well throughout the month. So thank you very much for your patience and enjoy the rest of your evenings and days. And I'll speak to you all soon. Take care, guys. Thank you very much.